please join me in welcoming Jennifer with a big round of applause. Jen, come on out. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Good to see you. I'll put you in charge.
All right. Well, thank you, Larry, for telling us all about the value of a customer experience. I know all of you today have heard a lot about customer experience, but as I was talking to a number of people over the course of yesterday, I hear a lot of people say, you know what, isn't that customer experience thing only for marketers? And of course, they're asking me, a marketer, and of course, I say, absolutely not. Everybody needs to care about this. And as Larry was saying, it's interesting how the term has been used in so many different ways that there's a lot of confusion about what it is and how you get a good one. So we wanted to spend a few minutes taking you through some of the straightforward ways that customer experience professionals really understand their customers so that they can deliver those extraordinary customer relationships. It's a very straightforward process that I want to take you through. But first, there's one thing that is beyond everything else that you have to do well, and that is you have to get your words right. And you might say, well, Jennifer, you're a marketing person. Of course you care about words. I'm a technologist. I don't care about words. I care about code. But I'm telling you that words can get you in trouble. And to illustrate my point, I'm going to share a couple of not so well-known examples of real-world situations where words got people in trouble. Back in the 1970s, there's an airline here in the United States called Braniff International. And for those of you who might have been living in another country or might not have been born yet, they were a very well-respected airline. Their marketing team wanted to reach business customers who had less price sensitivity, and they came up with this brilliant idea of putting their business class seats in leather. We kind of take that for granted now, but this was a revolutionary idea in the 70s, and they wanted to market this service to their potential business customers. So what they did was they, of course, hired a very expensive marketing agency to come up with the precise words that would attract the business travelers to fly on their airline. When they did, these were the words they came up with. Fly in leather. Now, they also traveled to Latin America. And they needed to take that slogan and they needed to make sure that it was translated into Spanish because Spanish-speaking people won't know what that means. So they literally translated it into vuela en cuero. Now, the Spanish-speaking people in the room are laughing hysterically because what that meant to the Spanish speakers sounded like this. You can ask your Spanish-speaking friends. They'll tell you, cuero means leather. Yes, it was literally translated correctly, but it also means skin. So they got some interesting business travelers with their new marketing campaign. So in case I haven't persuaded you enough how important words are, I can't resist. I have to tell you one more story. So in the United States, there is a milk producers association, and their whole business is to try to help milk producers sell more milk. And they had the under 12 set dialed in, but they really wanted to reach a broader population of the U.S. market and tried to educate people and get them enticed to go back to their younger days and understand all the benefits of drinking a cool glass of milk. So again, what did the good marketing person do? I'm sure many of you know this campaign. They paid a lot of money to some very smart marketing people to come up with the tagline, "Got milk." Well, again, there was a large Spanish-speaking population that they wanted to roll this campaign out to. And so what they did was they translated into Spanish. And in Spanish, it's translated into "Tienes leche." Those were the words. Here's how it was interpreted. So, as you can imagine, they weren't really trying to talk about women who'd just given birth. So what does that have to do with customer experience? I know you all aren't a group of marketeers, but what is important is getting the language right. And you really need to understand the language that you're using to describe who your customer is. That sounds trivial, but it's not. I'll start by sharing with you, many of you in the audience have different businesses. If you're in the insurance business, your customer might be a policyholder. If you're in the healthcare industry, you might have a patient. If you're in a professional services business, clients is a common term used. So really understanding who your customer is and how you refer to him is very, very important. That's a very first step along the way. You can say, Jennifer, okay, I got that. I'm in the healthcare business. I understand patients are my customers. But what you'll find is if you ask 5 different people in your organization who their customer is, I guarantee you the conversation will surprise you. If you haven't done this before, I encourage you to go back and try it at home. What happens is a lot of you who are in the IT profession, and I know a number of you in this room are, they think and talk about people inside their organization as an internal customer. They use that language commonly because that's somebody that you want to support in how they do their business. That will get you into trouble as you try to understand the customer journey because you haven't agreed on who the customer is, whose journey you're trying to understand. In fact, I was at a CX conference a few weeks back in New York, and I was talking to one gentleman, and he said, he was a CX professional, and he said, I told them we're no longer going to use the word customer inside my organization to mean somebody inside. And that was how he got everybody in his organization aligned around who the customer is. Okay, so words matter. Larry mentioned this a little bit earlier. The second part of the words matter story is related to how you think about your job, right? Everybody in my marketing team thinks about targeting market segments. The sales team thinks about selling to customers. You've got the service team servicing or supporting customers. Those are languages and words that you use to describe what you do on a daily basis. But if you really want to put yourself in the customer's shoes, you have to put the language in reverse. And what that looks like are words like, think about it when you go select something yourself, or you buy something, or you receive it, or you use it. Everybody in this room is a customer of somebody else's. You can relate to that language, and you need to be thinking about it when you're thinking about your customers. But the other interesting thing in terms of understanding a full journey from a customer's perspective, these are the intersections that your organization has with that customer's decision and that their stage that they're going through. As Larry mentioned to you, 57% of the customer's decision happens before you even know who they are. Think about that. That means something happened prior to them selecting something. It all starts with needs. And it fills out the full journey wheel. So if you have a need, you then evaluate your options, you do some research, and you make a decision. Everybody here knew you were coming to SugarCon on April 20th, and depending on where you were coming from, you had to make a decision about how you were going to get here. I know there's some people who came up on a bus this morning. Others could have driven. And yet again, many of you from far away had to make a decision about what airline to fly on. So you go through this decision of how you're going to get there, who you're going to choose to get there, use it, get on the plane, get here, and hopefully your flight wasn't canceled so that you want to fly on them again. So it's a full journey, and it repeats because your customers, what you want to do is make sure that they have a great experience and want to use your product or service again. Fairly straightforward? Okay, so you need to be thinking about it more broadly. The other really interesting thing is when you start talking about your customers' decisions and how they make them, you'll find that there are different people in your organization who really understand one section of that customer journey really, really well. And a different part of your organization who will understand a different part. So it's very important to get all of those different views together to really do a journey map in full form. So I've had a number of you one-on-one tell me, well, Jennifer, that all makes sense to me. I'm a consumer. I get that. Buying an airline ticket, that's very straightforward. But that customer experience and customer journey mapping doesn't relate to my business because I sell to other businesses. And I want to tell you that on stage after the break, you're going to hear from Bankview, who's done a fabulous job of taking these customer journey mapping concepts and really transforming their business by bringing that view into how they operate. So I will let them tell their story. I won't steal their thunder, but I want to emphasize the fact that this is just as important for business-to-business customers as it is for business-to-consumer. So let's take a look what it looks like. I told you I was going to give you the 5 simple steps to creating a customer journey map. The first thing you do is you define the decision stages, and this is a classic one. Everybody's is different. The words you choose are based on the business you're in and the decisions that your particular customers make. But this one is a very typical one for a business-to-business type of organization. I'm going to straighten out that circle, and it is a circle so that you understand you want to keep those customers and they come back and choose to do something with you again. But in order to illustrate what the steps are, I'm going to straighten it out across the screen, and I'm going to share with you an example. So let's pretend for the moment that we are all in the business of being a online service for travel, okay? Think Expedia, Priceline, that kind of business. Despegar, they're here in town. And through that decision, what we want to do is we want to recruit hotels to list on our site. That's our job. We got to have inventory in order to sell to the customers. So we're going to think about their customer journey from the standpoint of a hotel owner. So if you think about a hotel owner, what do they care about? What are they worried about? Beds, exactly. They need to have beds filled at a reasonable price point. So occupancy is important and the price that they're selling at. So if you were the general manager of a hotel, think of a smaller boutique type hotel, then that is what you are constantly thinking about. How do I fill those beds at a reasonable price? Well, I can go into the mode of thinking about what the different options are. And it could be an advertisement campaign. It could be I could build relationships with customers or companies where their customers or employees come in town to help fill the rooms. A third option might be a travel site like ours. So I need to understand the full realm of things that they could consider and understand how my option fits into those. The next step that they're going to have is they're going to think about evaluating what their options are. So if they've decided that they're going to go for a travel site, they're going to think about who are all the people that could give me that service. So I named a few: Expedia, TripAdvisor, Priceline, Despegar. There are a number of people who are in that business, and they all differentiate their product offerings and their service offerings in different ways. So the customer has to go through an evaluation stage and decide which service I'm going to use. They then go into an evaluation mode. They actually might test something out, try something out. They do a small test to see how it goes. They make a purchase decision. They start using it. They deploy it broadly, and hopefully they're wildly successful and continue to use and expand upon that service. Very distinct decision stages along the way that hotel goes through, full end-to-end. Second step in a customer journey map is you articulate and define the milestones. Now, this is an interesting challenge to do sometimes, but I'll give you a couple classic examples. When you're making your decision in a business organization, yes, to Larry's point, everybody's an individual, but they each bring their own perspective and they have their own lens that they're looking through to help the business make the right choice. So the culminating points where those cross-functional teams come together and really have an internal milestone, that is what we're looking for. They create an RFP. They create a short list. They make a purchase decision. They do a test phase. They go live. Those are milestones that happen along the way that are from the business person's perspective. And if you're in sales and you think about this, it's really an important point. It isn't an opportunity stage of how you're going to close a deal. It's the customer's decision and how their organization is moving through and how you can understand their internal milestones to know how far along they are in reaching their decision, hopefully to go with your solution. So, number one are the decision stages. Number two are the milestones, and they go hand in hand. The third piece of a customer journey map is to really understand who the people are on your side selling, the supplier stakeholders, and I'm sorry, I built it twice, but you have the supplier stakeholders on top. Every individual in the organization who touches that customer needs to deliver something to them. So if you think about our hotel example, you have a marketing person who wants to make sure that they're communicating to the hotel owners what the benefit is of their new listing service. Farther along, you might have a salesperson that wants to go customize and talk to them directly about what it can do for their specific hotel. Once they buy, you can have somebody in your services organization onboarding them and making sure that they get that listing service up and running. All of these different individuals really to support the customer through their entire life cycle. Then if you look at the bottom of that slide, the supplier stakeholders are the other big difference in the B2B cycle. There are a number of different individuals, whether it's the hotel owner at the beginning or a finance person making an ROI decision or a marketing manager who is responsible for doing the listing. There are a number of different individuals involved in the decision along the way and the use along the way of your service, and it's important that you understand every single one. And the culmination of all of it is really understanding who you need to talk to, what information you need to give them, through what touch point, digital or human, at the right stage in the cycle. Each of those key points of engagement is what you need to be thinking about and what you need to operationalize in your CRM to make sure that everybody in your organization is focused on the customer. And that's what we're going to be talking about over the next 2 days, blending this notion of customer journey mapping with CRM in order for you guys to operationalize that journey so that you can deliver extraordinary customer relationships. It's not an easy task. And Sugar has done a lot of great thinking and a lot of great development in our engineering organization to help make this easier for you. And I'm going to call up on stage the gentleman who needs no introduction to tell you more about what Sugar's doing to make this a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, our CTO and co-founder, Mr. Clint Oram.